You have stated in the past, or has been suggested, that you would like to play for Celtic at some stage. That's still the case?
Yeah.
Roy Keane joined Celtic in December 2005. It was arguably the highest profile signing the club ever made, but it came about in pretty controversial circumstances. Keane had just spent 12 years at Old Trafford, 8 of them as captain. His time at the club ended following a major bust-up with manager Alex Ferguson and assistant manager Carlos Queiroz. Tensions began over family sleeping arrangements during a pre-season trip to Portugal, and really came to boiling point when Keane criticised several of his United teammates in an infamous MUTV interview in October. Various clubs courted Keane after his departure, including Real Madrid, but Keane had always wanted to move to Parkhead, stating, "I wouldn't have called it a dream, but I'd always liked Celtic, and the Irish connection would have been on the back of my mind. I felt a bit of loyalty to them. This decision was purely a selfish one. I just wanted to play for Glasgow Celtic. Celtic is a special club." The signing was credited more to Celtic's largest individual shareholder Dermot Desmond than anything else, though CEO Peter Lawwell insisted Keane's wages fit within the club's salary structure at the time. Keane has since said that he was paid £15,000 a week for his brief spell at Celtic. Manager Gordon Strachan was amazed the club were able to pull off the coup, though has since stated, "I had a problem. We were unbeaten in so many games, and I had Lennon and Petrov in the middle of the park. I used to play with 2 wingers and a forward player that would come back in and drop off the main striker, so I had no idea how I was going to fit him in there. I had to speak to Roy Keane and tell him that he wasn't going to be starting. The conversation started with us just staring at each other over the table, and I was genuinely so excited to have him at Celtic with me, and I was never interested in the circumstances as to why he left Manchester United. So I was honest with him, and I said, listen, it's great having you here, but if I'm picking a team tomorrow, you aren't in it." Without hesitation, he said he was absolutely fine with that, even though I could see he absolutely wasn't okay with that. The move made headlines all across the UK, and there was plenty of anticipation for Keane to make his Celtic debut. This would come away to lower league opposition in a Scottish Cup tie against Clyde on the 7th of January 2006. It turned out to be one of the most embarrassing results in Celtic history, as the second tier side defeated Celtic 2-1. Keane actually played fine and didn't take much blame for the result, but it was a miserable start for the Irishman. In his second autobiography, Keane would say, "It was a nightmare. I wasn't happy with my own game. I did okay, but okay wasn't good enough." After the game, the disappointment. As I was taking my jersey off, I noticed the Nike tag was still on it. When I got on the bus, John Hartson, a really good guy, was already sitting there, and he was eating a packet of crisps with a fizzy drink. I said to myself, welcome to hell. Thankfully, things improved from here. Keane would make 13 appearances for the club, scoring his only goal in a 2-1 league win over Falkirk during a February league game. Keane's finest hour in a Celtic jersey came on the 12th of February 2006. Celtic played Rangers at Ibrox, and Roy Keane paired with Neil Lennon in the centre of midfield. Keane nullified Rangers' attack and outclassed the likes of Barry Ferguson and Bob Malcolm all day. His former Man United teammate Wayne Rooney cheered on from the stands, and the result went a long way to sealing the title that season for Celtic. In reality though, Keane was on borrowed time. He felt forced out by Ferguson at Man United, and even though he was still capable of a strong performance like his shown at Ibrox, it was clear to all who watched that his best days were behind him. Despite his Celtic fandom, you could even say his heart wasn't fully in it anymore. He was hurt and angry with his Old Trafford departure, and Celtic gave him a chance to tick something off his bucket list, but the once fierce midfield warrior was winding down physically and mentally. Keane himself would say, "I was 34 when I finished, but I should have retired when I left United. I even lost a bit of love for the game after that." Indeed, Keane did retire at the end of that season. He'd been due a testimonial for Man United, and it was played on the 9th of May between his last 2 clubs. Keane played the first half for Celtic and the second half for United. Most Celtic fans say the same thing when it comes to Roy Keane. We wish he could have joined sooner. His time at the club was very brief, but he's generally well thought of for trying it. He has of course gone on to be one of the most popular pundits on TV, which is for the best, because despite numerous links over the years, he never returned to Celtic as manager. Most Celtic fans are thankful for that too.